at all to promote it that way.
Okay.
Because it can't go anywhere. I had one of my friends who was going to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And I talked a lot with her, and the day she was going on, she called me and she said, I'm coming back to work. Because I told her that I didn't agree with her,
Right.
and I knew it was wrong, but I said, you're my friend and I'm going to be there for you, you know, if you need any help. And I think that's what changed her mind. And when she went there, she didn't go with it and came back. But I think this, sitting at a restaurant, being in front, it upsets a lot of people, and unfortunately we're not getting our point, you know, around it all. That just not, it would be better to have something louder and try to approach and talk to people than just do that. That's shocking, and it repulses them, and they don't understand, and nothing gets done, you know.
This,
Thing though, yeah, it is shocking, and it should be.
No, I agree.
Right.
I agree, but
And we want people to see what it is that it is, not to have it hidden away, but also like people like you both that agree and disagree with us have come over here and talked with us. We've had lots of conversations over here, even especially from the people sitting out over there. They've
Yeah, go
trickled
for it.
out and had conversations.
I'll tell you what, as someone who would support everything that you'd be supporting legislatively, and as someone who was over there, you shut down much more dialogue than you create. As a matter of fact, you make it much more difficult to have a dialogue that's civil with people. And there's nothing that you would be supporting legislatively that I wouldn't support. I'm as Christian, as conservative as they come. But over there, those people, it's just a big cackle fest, and everyone was angry and cussing. So this comes out, their response is to cuss you out. It doesn't create a dialogue. It shuts it down before.
Would you have been talking about abortion over there just today?
They weren't talking about abortion. They were talking about what assholes you were. Those were their words.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they
right.
are.
So, but that's not a discussion about abortion.
Right.
They could, but you could if you did it in a way that. Do you also think it's appropriate for this when there are 2, 3, 4-year-old kids? I mean, the Bible's very close to the time and
what's
a place
the?
for things.
That's what I want to ask. It's like, what's the appropriate way that you have in mind?
I think
I think there's even an appropriate time for that.
right.
Sure.
It's not here.
And that's
The time is when the rubber meets the road.
why
Shut it
why
before it
is
happens.
that though?
We've
Like
showed
when you
these
say
things, and we've done it, and we've not done it, and we've done it at lots of different places.
Sure.
Right. And everywhere we go, everyone says that there may be someone says there may be an appropriate time for that, but it's not here. So like, where would it be like an appropriate time
well,
to
I think
in front of a clinic
probably in front
when
of a
someone's
clinic,
just about
or
ready
they
to
do
murder
that
their child.
and that's one of the places that we go. Like but we go there.
And even
Yeah.
then, I think there are
Let
other
me answer the question.
Like I think fundamentally like
I don't.
I think the church is silent. I think that abortion won't go away if we actually
If you have
accept.
questions,
I just don't think people know what they're doing when they. And I understand that's the reason for
Yeah,
this.
and we
There's
know.
a time when that has such an impact that it can stop it in its tracks. I mean, she was just sharing with you how she's, got to a friend before she was in the parking lot of an abortion.
We were both
So there are
playing
times when it's
morning
really
and
hardball.
how
The front
familiar-
end of the conversation is the time when you play hardball. This is a nuclear weapon initially. This comes later when you're saving a life. I think right now it shuts down dialogue.
Well, how familiar are you with Lila Rose in live action?
Oh, very.
Yeah, well, she's good. I've worked with her on those things. Those are very effective because they do it in a way that's strategic. I mean, I was one of the first writers with Andrew Breitbart. That's where I started, and I wrote plenty of things on pro-life issues. There's a strategy that needs to be used. Put it this way: if you were in a war, you lose. This isn't the right strategy right off the bat. It's not the right time. You don't drop the nuclear bomb first. And you know what would even be more effective? I would even disagree with my father respectfully in front of an abortion clinic. Do you realize your baby can feel that? Do you realize your baby has fingernails, a central nervous system?
We do that.
But the thing is, you can't do that if you start with this, because their blinders are on. They can't hear you. And I believe me, I understand the church is silent.
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to get
This
to.
is a huge part of it. Because
No. Why are their blinders on?
what I'm saying is their blinders are on when you stand in front of a clinic, and that's what they see first. They won't be on if you talk with them.
I think they don't want to know the truth.
No,
That's closer to it. That's closer to it. That's where I wanted to get with it. Yeah.
That's okay, but it still doesn't mean, it's truth. You gotta throw it in their face. Hey, it's sales, guys. It's sales. There's an appropriate time to close.
And why would you go to the losing argument? Why would you go to the argument that, here's the thing, you have a country that is overwhelmingly pro-life right now, but those same people who are overwhelmingly pro-life, people who would support you and come out and say, good job, are still a little more empathetic seeming than you are on the rape issue. They say, no, I'm not saying I support abortion and rape, but why would you go to the single losing argument when you have a winning argument
I'll
to make?
tell you, I got a good answer for this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We talk to both pro-lifers and pro-choicers. We consider ourselves abolitionists, not pro-lifers. But that aside, when we talk to both pro-lifers and pro-choicers, yeah, most of the pro-life movement is willing to throw in rape exceptions or rape clauses or bring it up, or they'll say like when legislation gets out, but when they say like engage, they say yeah, stay away from those, like unless it's brought up, right? When I talk to pro-choicers, one of the things they first run to is what about the rape exception, right?
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
the thing that like they're using to excuse it is the thing that like pro-lifers are shying away from. Like my argument is that to get to like the heart of the issue and win against the pro-choicers is to go against the things that they're using as excuses, and that's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that you need to ignore rape or you need to ignore that
Right,
issue.
no, but I mean,
but
like,
you're
we're
going to a
preemptive.
losing issue first. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll read
Oh,
it.
yeah,
but
no.
you're going to a losing issue first.
Why
See,
is it a losing issue?
Because people right away go, oh, you think that I should carry a... If someone is pro-choice, they go right away, if you say, well, even in case of rape, no exceptions, they go, okay, I'm not going to listen to you. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong.
Right.
I don't think that two wrongs make a right. I don't think that the best option in case of rape is abortion. I don't, so I'm on board with you. But it's the wrong tact to take. It's the wrong argument to make. And at a certain point, you guys have to decide, are you interested in being a lightning rod and doing your thing? Are you interested in winning the country?
Well,
and this isn't it. Statistically, it's not. Statistically, this is what turns people off. Even people who are pro-life, pro-choice, statistically, when you see people, when you look at the Pew Research polls, they say, those people piss me off.
Yeah.
Both sides. That's not a good thing.
Well, all right. Let me go back in history a little ways. All right. Two things. Well, I'll go back a little ways back, and I'll go a lot further back. Going a little ways back, Emmett Till. He was a black boy, went down to the South, was brutally murdered. Right. His mother, when he was his body was transported back up to Chicago, I believe it was. Like his mother demanded an open casket, and there were pictures of it sent out everywhere. And that is one of the things that helped launch like the civil rights movements. Was actually like the shocking pictures of it. Two, when you go back to like slavery and the issue in that, and the like people like William Lloyd Garrison and the abolitionists of slavery, like they would use tactics that pissed off a lot of Southerners, right? They pissed off a lot of Southerners, but like they actually made inroads into the South, and they actually in the end won. Like with strategies that did piss off the things, but they were ultimately effective. A lot of people get pissed off because they feel the guilt. You know, what statistically,
But
by age 45...
what did it lead to, though? You're talking about the Southerners and Northerners. What happened?
Oh yeah, no, there was a civil war.
Right.
Right.
Is that what you guys are looking for?
Well, no.
No,
Because that's where it ends.
Right.
I mean, you guys should be taking a different tact.
Well, it ended...
Unless you want
there
war.
was some other things that ended that led to the Civil War, other than like the Garrisonians. Like there was John Brown and some other things like raiding Harper's Ferry.
Well, I'm just using your example, and that's what that was the end game. And I'm saying if that's your end game, then this is a great way to go. If it's not,
no, the end game wasn't the war, though. The end game was that it was actually abolished.
Wilberforce in England, where they abolished it, where there wasn't a war, right? He took people into slave ships. He took graphic images that people also told him like they don't and artwork. They said no, get that out of our face. And they said a lot of the same things. And like that is one of the tools he used. He brought out the chains. He brought out the instruments they used, and it was shocking. But at the end, like those abolitionists did abolish human abortion, or not human abortion, abolish slavery. Now, all right, let's say like when people get upset, like here's what I'm going to say, because people do get upset all the time, and when I think about why are people so upset, all right, like 1 out of 3 women by age 45 has had an abortion, right? Now, when you look at, like, you stand in front of a clinic, you watch...
I accept that stat.
Between 1 to 3 and 1 to 4. It's between 1 to 3 and 1 to 4. Guttmacher Institute's are going to be pretty reliable.
High, but when people are, you know, when you look at people going to the clinic, they're usually not going by themselves. Like, a lot of times a woman will have a man usually responsible for the child who's driving them to the clinic, right? But sometimes it may be a female friend, but there's usually someone else with them who's driving them there, taking care of them while they're doing that. Now that means that like it's more than a third, right, of just women, or more than a sixth of like the population who are and have been affected or participated in this. When they see things like this, and even when they're confronted with arguments, they get upset. They get upset because they know that an admission that like that's right, or that like that's really what like this is that they've done is an admission of guilt on their part to like having participated in that. And so we know that like people are going to get upset and we're going to upset people, but we also know
What's
that
your goal?
Our goal is to bring
upset people.
our goal is to bring
that's
the
not true.
conflict into the gospel into conflict with abortion, because we know that that guilt is there and it has to be dealt with. We offer people redemption.
Do you play chess at all?
Yes.
I'll use an analogy. Okay.
Okay.
So chess
I
is
use
about
chess
maximum
analogies.
efficiency
Right.
and the least amount of moves.
Right.
You just had to go through about a 7-minute diatribe historically to provide some kind of a context that was very impersonal that you would give to someone who I can just tell you, listen, this is what it wouldn't relate to it. I wouldn't relate to it unless I was attending your church and already on board with this.
Okay.
And you still didn't quite make the point that I think you were getting to. I don't fully understand what your point was.
My point is that
And the point is that you have to do that when you started off this way. There's a more effective way. There's a better way.
And you just don't have time to do it.
But what's the way? Like, what's the way that I wanted to ask
No,
you
I'm
about?
not arguing
Thus
like
you do,
strategies
because we
to
welcome
abolish
it.
human
We welcome
abortion
it.
with
But-
every
a
person.
great example.
But in a point-and-click world, you're not going to have any time at all with your
Well,
demo,
in point
your
and
young
click
people.
world, we've
Yeah,
got memes, we've got all sorts of graphics. You've probably seen some of the abolish human abortion graphics.
Sure.
Yeah, like we've got materials for online for the fast.
Well, sure.
second
No,
thing,
the imagery, boom, you can do that's fast anywhere. It's fast now when I drive by. Making that case you just made.
But when you, well, that is what I wanted to ask. That's what I wanted to ask you all. Like, if this is the thing that we're not supposed to do, because it's
didn't say
actually
you're not
ineffective.
supposed to do it.
Well, I mean, like, when in the terms of order of events, best strategy. Like, this is not the place to do it. This is not the way to do it. Well, what is the way to do it?
Okay, well, there are a few different ways. First off, you need to know your audience. You need to know who you're dealing with.
Okay, I would say my audience is sinners in need of the gospel and repentance. You would say,
Well, that's all.
Because even if that's the case,
Right.
I can't think of a worse way to reach them than this. I can't think of a worse way to reach those sinners and people. By the way, you're a sinner in need of repentance too. So am I.
What-
As a matter of fact, you and I probably more than most people, because we have a relationship with Christ and we're held more accountable. I can't think of anything that would turn off the people who you would refer to as sinners and people in need of repentance more than putting this in front of a 3-year-old child.
God says that He demonstrated His love.
like,
How
that's
would-
just an
how would-
assertion.
how
Like,
would you
that's just
feel
an
if-
assertion you make without like substantiating a claim. I can't think of something that's more.
By what I watched there.
What-
About
I
people
don't-
having to
like-
shield their children's eyes. I can tell you, even if you look at Pew Research polls where they talk about people
how
who
would
talk
you
about
suggest that they
people with
would
these
like
kinds of
anyway?
signs, whether they support or not, polling both pro-life and pro-choice people, and they say that's just not the right way to go about it, including people who are already pro-life. So if you want to throw out research statistics, this is just a way that turns people off. And I'm of the belief that
Do
we
you
should
ha-
be bringing people toward the cross.
Do you have to, if you're going to actually combat abortion and see that it comes to an end, do you actually have to solve that problem with the gospel?
You have to solve the problem of abortion.
Right.
Sure. Well, as Christians, we believe certain spiritual truths to be self-evident, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
We believe that.
Yeah.
But the people who you just said, who you referred to as, first off, again, talk about tact. I wouldn't refer to them as sinners in need of repentance because that's you and me. That's all of us. So I wouldn't use that term.
Right. I'm just quoting the apostles, Jesus, the New Testament. Like,
Okay, so
that's
you
what
quoted
they're.
about yourself.
And I would
But
just
you
say
didn't do
like that was
You
the
just
case.
said it about other people as though you weren't one of them. So just
No, that's an assumption on your part. That's an assumption on your
Well,
part.
it's
Because I can
the
tell
kind of
you,
language, but it's the kind of language that you use
No,
that
but
would
I can
cause
t-
someone to feel that way
Like,
or to
because-
think that way.
or it could be that they're actually like they don't want to admit the guilt. Like you're assuming that it's actually an ineffective tactic. When I read
I
how
don't
the
think guilt is the
apostles,
most effective tactic.
well, how did the apostles preach the gospel in the New
They
Testament?
preach it through love.
Like they actually said things like, "This Messiah is the one that you all crucified."
Do you think Jesus
And then
would be happy
Pentecost
to put
takes
this in
place.
front of a 2-year-old?
Like,
You think Jesus would be a fan of that?
let me t- the first point that I just wanted to get to with that. Like you said that me just saying that people are sinners is an ineffective tactic.
No, I didn't.
What
I said
did
that
you-
was. I said that was.
Or
in
is the
addition
wrong
to,
way?
This is an ineffective tactic. I said that kind of language. See, it's not necessarily what you say; it's what people hear. And when people hear that, they immediately shut off.
Right.
There's a way to win people. This
Right,
is
and so I think that I'm standing on like the apostles, the example of Jesus, and they're like, they're going to preach the gospel. Jesus says things about like, sorry, I wanted to jump in here and hear what he was saying too.
Get people like this on board with you. You have to get people that are willing to.
Well, no,
Let me ask
see,
you guys a question. Why is abortion so prevalent? Number one cause of death in America. Double that of heart disease. Why? Are we moving closer to Christ? Is the form of preaching?
I think that's right. I think that's right.
Just love, help me?
You don't decide to have
The
a heart
hippie
attack.
lady over here wanted to
You
have
decide
a
to have
party,
it.
unbridled
Right.
choices.
But if we have all these churches on every single corner and all these Christian men doing exactly what you think they should be doing, Why is it so?
Well, hold on. See, here's the thing you do. I don't know what church do you go to where they coach you to speak this way? Because for you to say that, for you to say these Christian men doing what you're telling them to be doing, it's a false assumption and it's completely inaccurate.
Well,
so I pray to God you're not
And
talking
maybe,
to
but that's what you're
non-Christians that way.
propagating, right? That people should be doing the things that you're doing. This is how you.
No, I didn't say that. No one said that. So you're wrong in saying that.
I may be wrong, but answer my question.
Well, no, because you base it on a false assumption. So
No, he's asking like, you've got churches on every corner.
Right.
Why is abortion
We have more
legal?
churches in every corner in all of Western Europe. Quebec, where we lived for many years, every street's a saint, every city's a saint.
You have to understand, it's still significantly lower here than it is in places like Europe or
Wherever
Quebec.
there's
It's
religion.
much lower here because of the church large. They're not as effective as they could be, but they certainly have been more effective in the
Why
places
do you
where
suppose
they're
that is? Why do you suppose they're not effective?
Believe me, I'm on board with. I think churches need to be more bold. I think churches, you know, I think if
At a show. Do you know what the best way is to get in here? Any ramps?
I've seen
Yeah.
Do you believe that you have blood guilt on your hand? That this land has blood guilt?
Well, hold on a second. You just see you're going to these stock arguments without letting someone address your previous question.
Okay, you can address it. You can address it. Go for it.
Go for it. I'm
Our
fully on
subject
board
was
with the
tax.
fact
That's all we were talking about.
our
We're talking
subject is
about
about
a sales
But if you're talking about
Right.
the church, believe me, I'm on board with the fact that I think if half of the churches that actually believed what we believed were a quarter as vocal as people like Jeremiah Wright, or a quarter as vocal of the African American churches, which support and give money to Planned Parenthood, we'd be much better off, right?
No, we
But
agree
I
on
don't
that.
see how this
can
encourages
tell you how.
churches to be more, because you're never going to see
You
this
want
in a
me to tell you
church,
how?
and they go, this is what we don't want at our church.
Well, what happens is 15-year-old girls that are pregnant walk by and say, I was lied to. That it's a bait.
You think so?
Yeah, I hear it.
How often?
I hear it. I hear it all the time. I hear that out in front of the high schools because I go.
How many
I take
more
these
compared to the people over there at that cafe that just foul and filth and foul and middle fingers and everything, and that's it?
What kind of people are they? Are they Christians?
But neither was the 15-year-old
Most of
girl
them that have
came and
walked
saw your
over here
sign that
told
you're
us they
trying to
were.
reach. So that's the point. You're trying to impact people with a message.
Yeah, but you're more concerned with the reaction to the sign than like you can actually use this to talk to them about the gospel.
I can't think of
But
a
you-
worse
but
way to
you-
introduce the gospel.
you
though.
thought-
Talking about a way to
Right. So like,
I just can't think of a more
We're not
ineffective way
going
to
to
introduce the
dissuade you.
gospel.
right.
It
So
doesn't matter.
I don't disagree with preaching the gospel.
Right.
I don't disagree that we all, at the end of the day, come to the same cross. But I can't think of a more ineffective way to preach the gospel than starting off with this.
yeah, that's what I
Several
want to
times,
ask.
but
Why?
I want to know like why.
Well, it's expressed to you why. It's expressed to him statistically. People say this turns them off, both pro-lifers and pro-choicers. You look at people like Lila Rose, you look at people like Stephen Artfeld, who run the biggest pro-life news update in the world. They don't take this tact. Now, they will take this tact in certain instances where it's appropriate.
Why did Lila Rose become an advocate for the unborn?
Lila Rose is
Why? I know her personally. Why?
I've worked with her personally.
She saw images as a young child. That's what changed her.
Lila Rose was raised in a Christian household and then converted to Catholicism, and very much, and she's always been politically active, and she
why
chose
did
that as a
she
course. This
be
wasn't the
defended
reason
for
she
the
became.
unborn?
That wasn't the only reason.
You can ask her. Ask her. That's completely the truth.
Kind of.
She saw the signs. She saw it. And
You know,
she's like,
she's never ever expressed that was the reason she became pro-life, ever.
well, she told me. I've heard her speak.
Okay, so it's one of those things that's completely unverifiable because you can read her
Well, you can go
biography
ask
right
her.
now.
Like, you may not be able to verify right now, but you can ask.
But you can verify through a biography. You can verify through the work she does. This isn't what she does. And she shut down Planned
And if
Parenthood.
that's
How many
not
have you
to
shut
her,
down?
would think she
Well,
would
our
use
strategy is not to shut down individual
Well,
clinics
she
because,
does
as you know, like
undercover
there's going to be
work,
one, like a massive one that's reopening. Like clinics reopen. Troy Newman shuts down clinics all the time, but like
Well, and
they
she's
come back
being
in
more
behind it
effective.
and reopen because
That's
of
what I'm
healthcare.
saying.
What
That's
we're
the
trying
whole
to do
point.
It's very debatable.
is actually like see the culture. We've got abolitionist societies in states all over the country, and we want to get people in like individuals, not like top-down organization, but actually individuals, people in the churches to actually rise up and stand up for the oppressed, engage their neighbors, and actually like rise up and abolish human abortion that way.
And you believe that this is the way is most effective to get that done.
Right.
like even and using language like sin. Like we shouldn't shy away from the language that like we would agree on fundamentally that the problem is sin. Like we should actually be quick. Like we want to get there because that's the fundamental
And
problem.
for the record, just so you could, we don't always bring like graphic
Right.
images
Right.
out
Right.
Good. Yeah,
So,
I just think
and if-
there's a time and place for everything,
God
especially
bless you
with
guys.
strategy.
hope
I don't think a Sunday morning in front of children
All
is
right, well,
going
here,
to replace that.
actually,
I've got one.
we can-
But thank you.
Hold on, I got a more.
Oh, I got you.